Welcome to another episode of Soccerheads New England. I'm Dave Rattigan, alongside Paul Nardizzi and Jim Ruberti, here for another episode of Soccerheads New England. You can follow us at soccerheadsnewengland.com. You can check us out on Facebook. You name it, you can do it. Jim Ruberti and Paul Nardizzi are both diehard fans on multiple levels of soccer. Both have coached at various levels, and both are former college players. We should say, however, that they were college players a long time ago. Back then, the game was not played with a ball. Instead, players would use the skull of a defeated enemy and kick it around the field. Check us out at soccerheadsnewengland.com, Facebook page, or email soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com. And thanks for tuning in. If you like it, please share. Today, we're going to talk about the Revs and Revs fandom with Seth Macomber, editor of the fan website, the Bent Musket. And the challenge for Jim will be to, oh boy, this is awful. This is awful. I've used
Jim is challenged whether we have to watch our language or don't, or it doesn't matter. I could be sponsored by the KGB and would tell Jim to watch what he says.
We'll talk about the Revs' first loss of the season. And have you two noticed that it's still winter and it's a crazy time to play soccer? Have you noticed that?
Noticed.
Did you, when you went to the game against Mexico, did you notice that it wasn't exactly soccer weather?
I mean, if you want to play in New England or New York, expect it and just go out there. Carlos was complaining after the game. You got to just play and deal with it. It's windy and cold, but I mean, I've played in that weather. I don't love it either, but it's soccer.
We all played in that weather. Late September, November, right? Yeah. September, October, November, playoffs. We've been out there freezing cold. It is part of soccer.
Right, especially you, because you're not moving as much. Like the players can run. You're the goalie standing there, and you're colder than anyone.
If you didn't think I moved back then, you should see me now.
I've changed my stance on this, by the way. I've just the last few weeks, it just drives me crazy that they play this weird. I think the problem is I think they should just get rid of the off season completely for the New England Revolution. For professional soccer players, once they're done with the playoffs, I think boom, they should just go right into spring training in the fall. And then in the early winter, they can start right around Christmas. They can have the season opener. And
you want more cold games?
I want more. I just want more crazy.
Well, I will say this.
Makes no sense soccer.
The game against Mexico was playable. I wasn't at the next game. That looked unplayable. I can understand why he was frustrated.
Yeah.
He couldn't kick. It was wind. It was everything. But
his foot's got to get.
Again, I mean, that's what you get when you.
But why do you start so early?
Because they have to get everything in before the World Cup.
Everything's about the World Cup.
Everything's about the World Cup.
Everything's about the World Cup. All right, fine. Let me ask you about this other thing. Oh, first, plugs. Oh, no, yeah, we'll talk about Arena being unhappy. He's unhappy with the video replay. They lost 2-0. Thoughts?
I thought they didn't start all their players because, again, they're resting for the Concacaf and trying to win that badly.
Yeah, because Concacaf is the most important thing in the world.
Well, especially where you're already in the quarters.
Yeah, but Concacaf is fun to say. It's more fun to say Concacaf than World Cup.
You're up 3-0.
Yep.
And you have a very good chance to get to the semis. So he's putting all his eggs in that basket right now, and they're going to slip down the standings a little. But I think he trusts his team that they'll go on a streak when they need to. They got to go down there Wednesday and win. And next Sunday they play an expansion team, so they should have 2 wins. And so I understand why he had a weak lineup, but they still shouldn't be blowing a 2-0 lead.
We're at the stage now, Dave, with Arena being the coach. It's almost analogous to Belichick. Almost like, okay, he made those decisions. He knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, he's like,
we trust in Bill. We trust in Bruce.
Exactly.
Oh man!
Exactly.
The next thing we're going to hear in Alex Cora, we trust. Every team's coach, we're going to say, "Oh, we believe
we only
knows
trust
what he's
Alex
doing."
Cora if there's a drummer in the outfield.
How would you? Well, he should coach the Revs then. He should coach the Revs. It's so funny. Just the whole idea that sports fans should think the coach knows more than they do. I mean, that's such a twist. It's like Bizarro World. Anyway, first plugs. Soccerheads New England is sponsored by financial advisor Rick Spencer. Here's a number for you, 978-857-7573. Some people Photoshop their kids' pictures onto Leo Messi's body, get them into college. Jim Ruberti Photoshopped his kids' heads onto a blackmail photo of the university admissions officer. With Rick Spencer, you won't have to do that. Rick speaks at free seminars for soccer clubs, youth leagues, and the public. He'll help get your kid into college, athlete or not. Rick's also my financial advisor, and because of him, I now bathe once a week in the sweat of Sports Illustrated swimsuit models. That's true. I buy it online. I buy it online. It's important. To have Rick
come, he's not as funny on stage. Okay,
I
continue.
know, yeah. It must be a day thing.
To have Rick come speak to your club, team, league, or group, or to check out one of his free seminars, call him at 978-857-7573. Also, if your organization needs to raise money and you want to have a great time doing it, you should hire the Soccerheads Experience. It's more than a comedy show. It's an event that your community will never forget, with soccer-themed humor and giveaways and all kinds of extras. We'll also make sure you make a lot of money, and your community will never forget it. All right, we're going to welcome Seth Macomber. Seth is the senior editor of the website, The Bent Musket. I got to tell you, this is a fascinating website because it's a fan website for the New England Revolution. Is that right?
Yeah, in some regards. I mean, I think that we definitely cater to fans. We try to be the voice of the fan. But we're in the press box. We are conducting interviews. So it's not just a small blog, in my opinion. Like, we try to break stories and get people the news that they want to hear because, as I'm sure you know, Revolution Soccer and MLS isn't really getting the mainstream media. So they rely on guys like us to get information out there.
Why do you think it gets so little play in the mainstream media?
I just think that, like, traditionally speaking, you have your big sports. You have baseball with the Red Sox. You have the Celtics. You have the Bruins, obviously the Patriots. So, MLS has been around since 1996. So you have those other sports been passed on from generation to generation. They remember going to the ballpark with their grandfather or their father, and there's fond memories there. Where soccer, you have to build that up. And I think part of the issue in New England is that the stadium is Gillette Stadium. And I don't know if you guys, I believe some of you guys were there on the Wednesday night or the Saturday night. It's a pretty tough sell to say, go to Foxborough in this giant stadium with bad conditions and watch the soccer game. Even though the soccer game itself is excellent, very entertaining, it's kind of a tough sell sometimes. I talked to Brian O'Donovan, who is the original general manager for the Revolution. He talked about how it was originally meant to be a fun day out for families. That it's cheap, it's affordable, grab a hot dog, grab a drink, buy a jersey, and check out Alexi Lawless. And we're seeing that model change a little bit, but there still is this element of it being friendly for the fans and friendly for the family, as opposed to being in an urban downtown stadium like you see, the Portland Timbers, for example. So I think that you have to just kind of continue to grow the product, hopefully get a downtown stadium, and then we'll start to see it get more attention in the mainstream media.
I got to say this, reading your site, I got to learn, and by the way, I'm one of those people that really likes it as a low price tickets. And bringing the family and being able to pick up the tickets on short notice. I know hardcore soccer fans don't like that. It's almost like it works against them because with such a big stadium, there's not as much demand for tickets. But anyway, through your website, I've learned about capo stands, crayon flags, horse guy. Did you know about horse guy?
I did not know about horse guy. Unbelievable. I think more people should know about horse guy.
Well, the funny thing is, you read about it. This is sort of the quote unquote color of soccer. I have a friend who always talks about, well, people are having fun when they're at the game. Now, he hates the wave at a baseball game, and he hates any change to baseball. I don't know if it's because it's not a change, because it's already established in Europe or what, but he likes all of these side things that go on during Revolution games.
Tell us about the interview with Horsehead.
Yeah, so I think, first of all, just to kind of highlight, the Revolution fans are amazing. I think most of them would agree that being in Gillette Stadium doesn't create the best atmosphere overall. The noise sometimes escapes from the stadium really easily, where other places you have a covering, so it allows it to echo a little bit. But that's not a knock on the Midnight Riders or the Rebellion or the members of the various supporters group, because they're diehards. I mean, they're out there banging the drum. They're wearing short sleeves out in the winter conditions. The capo stand, we had a story on the Bent Musket recently about Shannon Tate, who took the step to say, like, you know what, I want my fandom to be more. I want to be out there to support my voice and the team I love. Talking about the idea that she now plans her weekends around Revs games. So when she sees someone's getting married on a Revs game day, she has to kind of decide, which one do I love more? Do I love this team more or my best friend more? And I think a lot of the Revs fans feel that way about this team. It's more than just a night out for them. It's something that they love, they'll cry for, they'll travel for. But overall, it's just not the best atmosphere for someone to go in. With Horse Guy, one of my favorite things about writing for this team, I like breaking stories. I like, being in the press box, but I love telling the interesting, strange stories out there. So Horse Guy, who's probably Horse Man now, he was someone that was showing up a lot on Revolution broadcasts. And I was like, let's hunt this guy down. Let's have his story, highlight him a little bit, try to get him some followers on Twitter. So he just a fun little story where he would show up on the screen with a sign that said Horse Guy, wearing a mask on his face. And I try to write the article as if he was some sort of like Batman figure, like he was, high above a Gillette Stadium, making sure there was no wrongdoings that was happening. Another really good one that I think you guys will enjoy was that for a while, because Revolution players weren't making, and this is around MLS, not just with the Revs, but because players weren't making that much money as developmental players, like first-year players out of college, some players were actually staying in people's houses. And one person ended up staying with someone who had a pet squirrel named Nardizzi. And Nardizzi was someone who had health problems. So the woman very nicely brought him in. And when the player left the house, said goodbye because he was leaving the team or whatever, they actually took a picture of Nardizzi holding a soccer ball with the Revolution logo, and all the players on the team signed it, and she got that as a goodbye gift. So, what a great story. The Boston Red Sox, the Celtics, they don't have stories like that. That's why you come to MLS, the fun stories like that.
That is, it is a fun story. And I'm thinking, as you're telling the story, I'm thinking to myself, if you have a pet squirrel, what else would you name it besides Nardizzi?
I personally thought that we should be looking at replacing Slide the Fox with Nardizzi the Squirrel. I think that would be a really cool mascot.
I concur.
Seth, when you interviewed Horsehead, did he wear the horse mask, or did he let you know who he is? Because I know who he is.
We did, yeah. I was the lucky few that was able to learn the identity of Horse Guy. As you know, he keeps it pretty close to the vest. It's pretty important that Horse Guy remains Horse Guy. He's a hero, like he's someone who sticks up for the right people. So we got to keep it a secret.
I know. I thought they had a winning streak every time he showed up, and I haven't seen him in a while because I go a lot. But my thought is, just to show solidarity with Ukraine, we get him back. We have someone dressed up as Putin ride him around the stadium, bareback, obviously. And then when he gets over to the fort, they take him out with a musket. And I think Jim might be willing to do Putin.
Yeah, you got to do it without a shirt on, Jim.
I'm very confused today between Horse Guy and Nardizzi the Squirrel. I'm thinking this is an Animal Planet podcast instead of soccer. We bring Seth on and also talking about his animals.
We'll get into soccer. We'll get to it.
Listen, you got a guy named Horse Guy. I didn't even know about Horse Guy. And Horse Guy doesn't tell you who he is. He doesn't tell you his secret identity.
I'm not going to say who he is. No, he doesn't want to be known.
So he's like Batman.
Yes.
He's like Batman. And Seth, you're gonna encourage this kind of behavior from this guy?
Listen, man, he's a part of the lore of Gillette Stadium. I know there's a little jealousy that's happening right now, but you have to be a part of a pretty tight-knit circle to learn the identity of Horse Guy.
Really? Does he, when he puts on the Horse Guy costume, does he slide down a pole, the horse pole?
He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to.
Well, the good news is...
I like Paul's defending him.
Well, hopefully he's got children, and this is something he can pass on generation to generation.
Yeah, there'll be Pony Boy in a few years.
By the way, Seth, you sound exactly like Brian Bolillo, so I'm wondering if you and him are the same guy.
You the same guy?
He just wanted to come back on the podcast.
Oh, he was dying to come back.
And
I had such a great time the first time, that I'll keep coming. If you guys are unable to book us, me, Brian Bolillo, will continue to change my name a little bit so that you guys can act like I can do a Diego Fagundes if you want, whatever you guys need.
And why do I have a feeling you're also the Horse Guy and Nardizzi the Squirrel?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Lots of theory. Hey, I'm not giving it up no matter what. You can guess as many times as you want, but I'm not giving it up.
Hey, I got a question for you. Over the years, have you seen, and I'm hoping so, your listeners, your followers, your base grow exponentially? Slow growth? What are you seeing as growth? Because I think it would be analogous to the fans at Gillette. Do you know what I'm saying? I think you would be a good measuring stick on how the fan base is increasing for soccer. Do you know what I mean? If I'm Brian Bolillo, I'm talking to you, and I'm talking to your fan base and seeing if you're getting more people committed to soccer, and actually see if it's analogous to how many more people showing up at the stadium, because I think it's a good you got to be a really good weathering stick for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably looking at more attendance. I mean, we see that like attendance goes up when the team is winning. Last year was a good year with that. Season ticket holders was another really good indicator. In terms of our reading, our readership, it has more to do if the team is winning, if it's the playoff season, if there's a big signing. So Matt Turner going over to Arsenal is going to get us a lot more eyes. Josie Altidore signing with the team and us having interviews with him. On my Twitter, people will follow me, at the beginning of the season in particular, because they're getting into the things. There's some new people that are coming into the club. So I'm not sure if I'm the best barometer to kind of tell you where the state of soccer is, but there's definitely moments that we're seeing a lot more eyes on the Revolution, and it has to do with Bruce Arena and the team being successful with signing big name players. When things are good for the Revolution, things are usually good for the Bent Musket.
Okay.
That's oh no, I got a question. Two questions. First of all, when did you start the Bent Musket?
So I didn't start it. The person who started it was Steve Storr, who he began it with SB Nation, and the logo was there. He was being brought into the press box. I was originally a writer for Total MLS. That site no longer exists, and Steve brought me in. So for years, I was the managing editor, and I passed it on to the new managing editor, Sam Minton, who's done a great job running the site.
Okay, so when did the site start, roughly?
2002-ish or so. I'd probably say something around there.
So it's been around for a while. And here's the second thing that I get. How does Matt Turner leaving bring more eyes to the site? I mean, that's kind of a bad thing, isn't it? Isn't it kind of a negative?
Yeah, what we're seeing is that Arsenal fans want to learn about Matt Turner. So they're Googling him more often, finding their way to the site. They might not become, obviously, regular readers, but they're interested to know who this guy is, his highlights. At one point, he was not starting for the Revolution, so he actually became the team DJ. So he was in charge of the post-game music. And the way he described it was, I was the one that asked him about this, because, again, I love those weird stories. Mm-hmm. And the way he described it was he wanted to provide value to the team. And if he can't do it on the field, then he wanted to keep energy high, keep spirits high. So for someone who is an Arsenal fan, they're going to Google it and they're going to learn a little bit more about this player and who he truly is as a person, as a player. I haven't released it yet because, as you guys know, Matt Turner is injured right now. But I went back and I interviewed his coaches when he went down to the Richmond Kickers. Yeah. And there's some fun stories about who he is. And through these older articles, they might not be breaking news, but you really kind of get an idea of, like, this is a guy who works hard, puts his head down, wants to do well for the team. So when those big moments happen, people are more likely to Google the name, so they find us more often.
So, Seth, do you anticipate, like, for instance, Messi left Barcelona, so I watch every PSG game. I'm a nerd. So do you think you will mention how Turner's doing at Arsenal on your site? Because you anticipate people following him there? Yeah,
sometimes what we'll do is we'll write, like, about Tejan Buchanan, like how he's doing, because our fans want to know too. Like, they want to know, like, highlights, how did he score a goal, whatever it might be. But I appreciate you actually mentioning Messi, because maybe I'll just write an article that says maybe the Revs should sign Messi, because automatically people will click that. It's a little clickbaity, It is what it is, but the Revolution have been sometimes linked to guys like Ronaldinho. So I've written like 3 or 4 Ronaldinho rumor articles because some random people have said it. We are not in the business of clickbait at all. But, like, yeah, when rumors come up, we'll post it online because it will attract more eyes.
Are you allowed to be objective, critical, or does the team say no seat for you at the press box?
No, yeah, we're allowed to be critical. We try to be really fair and balanced in our coverage. Yeah, the Revs PR would never do something like that. They understand that being a part of this business comes with criticism sometimes. So I've covered teams that are losing game after game after game, and that's the type of articles you end up writing, and you end up having to ask the coach really hard questions. The nice thing is that under Bruce Arena, the Revs have been pretty good. So most of my articles have been a little bit more positive. But even recently, I did a tactical breakdown talking about the outside backs and talking about, like, what they have to do in order for the system to work. So I can certainly I try my best to be fair and accurate and and provide whatever insight I have. Knowing that the Revs PR won't take my dinner away if I go to the press box.
Yeah, you guys were certainly critical of the new logo and the launch of it, and so I'm in my 50s. I don't care either way. I'm not really into logos, but people that, for instance, my sons and their friends, they're the age that buy shirts, and I haven't met one yet that likes it. Literally, of the 20, 30 people I've asked in that age group, do you think that they tested it before they put it out, and do you personally like it?
We talked to some of the people that were involved in it, and it went through a long process. It wasn't just something that was thrown out there. I'll be honest, I actually like it. I thought the old crayon flag, which beloved and has its part in the team history, I didn't think it looked as good on merch. There's a hat, for example, that has just the R, not the white circle around it. And I think it looks sharp. Like, I think it looks like, something that belongs in Boston, like the giant B or the Celtics or the Patriots logo. Like, it just looks a little bit cleaner and more traditional of a soccer logo as opposed to like the crayon flag. So if you want to talk about someone who dislikes it, one of our writers, Jake Cantonese, is the crayon flag defender, and I believe if you look at the article, he's given it an F every time he's seen the thing.
No, actually, I'm looking at it right now. He gives it a D-. And
all right.
So but he's ripping it. But you're only giving it a C+, so that's not the strongest defense I've ever heard.
My thought is that could it be better? Yeah, potentially. But like in the world of rebranding, I don't know if you guys saw a few years back, Chicago Fire rebranded, and then within a couple years they rebranded again.
Oh wow! Yeah,
so
right. Yeah,
we've seen a lot of rebrands in MLS that aren't great. So in my opinion, if you're a C+, B-, you're kind of an A. Like, it's pretty hard to rebrand because everyone already has tons of memories with the old logo, jerseys with the old logo. So a C+, in my opinion, is a pretty decent. Like, they didn't knock it out of the park, in my opinion. Like, they could have done better. But C+, I think I ended up my final grade being B- because we ended up grading it twice.
Okay.
First when it leaked, and later on when we saw the final product and all, like, it on merch and stuff. I think I gave it a B-. And so obviously there's room for improvement, but I think overall it's pretty solid.
Well, it's got to be pretty difficult because you gotta be politically correct. You're not gonna have an American flag on there. You're not gonna have a musket on there, and the word revolution needs to be benign, right? Mm-hmm. So I think when it comes to that logo, Jim, that's a pretty benign logo that's not going to offend too many people.
Jim was sending his recommendations that he suggested: insurrection.
I had a picture of the Boston Tea Party when they were rifling people down in the red coats, but they turned that one down. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I just want to go on record as saying I like the new logo, and Paul's son's friends in their 20s, they're just stupid kids not liking what's good. Get off my lawn. But I actually like the change. I think it looks good. Although I like the crayon flag, but I think you're right. On merch, looks good on a flag, not on merch, my opinion. But Jim, what's up?
Seth, real quick. You've been doing this a long time, and we're big soccer fans here, and I think we all want to see success and sell out the stadium and get it on the prime news. But what's your top 3 in improving or getting people to that stadium to watch this team? You've done this long enough. We have, in our mind, we have to have this discussion here on this podcast. But I'd be interested to see what your top 3 would be to increase viewership and everything for the team.
Well, Seth, to put it another way, you're a soccer fan, right? You played soccer and you've been a fan since you were a kid?
Yep.
Okay. So I think what Jim's asking you is, how do you get normal people to like soccer? Is that right, Paul? Does that sound about right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing, like I mentioned, is a downtown stadium. And I talked to Taylor Twellman a few months ago, and he said that he thinks that a stadium could happen by 2026. And I told him, I was like, I've been covering this team for 9 years or so. And Revs fans have heard this before, that the stadium's coming in 4 or 5 years. Are we actually close? And he said, this is the furthest it's ever been. So for as Taylor Twellman, he's not associated with the project, but we know that he's associated with the New England Revolution. For him to say something like that, I think it carries a little bit of weight. And I think it makes sense for the Revolution to have a stadium before the next World Cup, to show it off, to say that soccer has arrived here. remember, the Revolution and all the other MLS teams, they were birthed out of the idea of the 1994 World Cup.
Yep.
So for them to now come full circle to be like, not only are we still thriving after a period of potentially the league folding, like we're thriving now, but all of our teams are closer to soccer stadiums, if not already having soccer stadiums. So I think there's a little bit of weight to that. And I just think that would be make the atmosphere a little bit better. I think you'll get, a lot of people in town caring more about the team. Like, oh, there's a stadium. Do you want to go tonight? Do you want to grab some food beforehand? As opposed to, do you want to drive an hour to go to Foxborough? And I know that Patriots fans will do that, but, Patriot fans have won multiple championships. They've had franchise players. They've built up the fan base to make it worth that drive. Where Revolution fans, we've been to 5 MLS Cups and they've not won any of them. So, maybe we're looking at a different atmosphere if the team is winning on a more consistent basis. So my second one is that the team needs to win. We see time after time that when this team is doing well, the stadium is packed in the summer. It's packed heading into the playoffs. It's packed during the playoffs. So I think Bruce Arena is a big part of that he brings a mentality, that he finds the right players. I keep saying that the Revolution will always be a MLS contender as long as Bruce Arena is the head coach and Carlos Heel is on the field. Those are guys that are proven winners in this league. And then for the last one, I think that you have to continue to bring in those big name players. So with Matt Turner leaving, you got to replace him. And Earl Edwards Jr. has done a nice job. I think that it's been pretty impressive for him to step up and make big plays. I thought his save on Wednesday against Pumas was probably the play of the game because it was 1-0. He makes a big save, and the Revolution scored 2 more goals.
Yeah,
so
great play.
Yeah, it goes to him. So, when Matt Turner leaving, I'm not really sure if it is Earl Edwards Jr. or if you have to go out and get a bigger name, someone like Ethan Horvath, for example. And you have Adam Buxa who might leave. Again, you can't, maybe for a short term, it's Josie Altidore, but if he's not necessarily playing his strongest, you have to be ready to grab that next big name player. Because the Revolution in 2014, they did have a huge player in Jermaine Jones. Magazines were calling him a game changer, but the following year they didn't add more players, and then when Jermaine Jones left, there wasn't that same type of player. So that's what you need. I mean, I think probably a lot of people you talk to have heard of a Josie Altidore. Those bigger name players have more of a reputation than smaller players that maybe do well, but they don't carry the same type of name recognition with it that get you to the stands.
Great.
I agree. So my concern going forward is they don't really have a winger and they don't really have that impact stud coming off the bench. Now, they got all this money for Turner. They got all this money for selling Buchanan. Shouldn't they spend it? I went the other night to the Mexico game. The only evidence I saw that they've spent any of that money was the 20-man shoveling crew that went on the field. And the guy in the lot that directs traffic, his glow sticks look pretty new to me. But other than that, are we going to buy somebody? Because I think we need someone. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends. I mean, if you're giving me permission to talk tactics, yes. I think that with Tajon Buchanan, he's excellent, he's awesome, but he didn't necessarily fit the way the Revs played. So with him, if you're going to play a diamond, it usually ends up being pretty narrow. Like we see right now with Sebastian Lletget, who came in from LA Galaxy. Sebastian Lletget plays that role more narrow, and that prevents the opposition from overwhelming the middle of the park. What we saw last year, we saw in the playoffs, is that Tajon Buchanan does best way out wide, going 1v1 with people. Mm-hmm. So if he's going to do that, then you lose an extra body in the middle, and that's going to overwhelm Matt Polster. And we saw that. That's why NYCFC advanced in the playoffs, is because Matt Polster was like, I don't know how to cover all these people. So they needed, if you're going to play 2 up top with Buxa and Bo, which has obviously proven to be successful, you're going to lose a man in the midfield, and you need to make sure that all the spaces are covered in order to prevent quick counters. So I hear you. When you look at the stat sheet right now, Lletget isn't creating the highlight moments. I mean, he's scored some goals. He's done some good things, but he's not doing the Tajon thing that's ending up on mixtapes that people are sharing because he made someone look foolish. Instead, Lletget is showing up in the right spot, keeping the ball moving. His passing percentage is usually around 90%. It's pretty amazing. So he's doing all these things on the field that are going to lead to the Revolution's success. but it doesn't look as shiny and good as when Tajon Buchanan was out there, because he was like creating these highlights that you wanted to like retweet, share on Facebook, get out there. The Jets is doing the usual soccer things that we see, and he's doing them pretty well.
Seth, I know we got a time constraint here, but I just wanted to ask one final question. I've heard about this stadium thing probably, I don't know how many years. I used to be a sports writer, and I covered the building of a new garden, and I've heard so much about Fenway and how they're going to replace Fenway. Let me ask you this. Bob Kraft owns Gillette Stadium. The Patriots play there. They've got a stadium staff. They've got people who work within the facility there already. They've got a ground crew. They've got the cops in Foxborough who have a system for traffic control. They know how to get people in and out without a whole lot of difficulty. What would be the incentive to put the club into Somerville or something like that? I mean, it's near public transportation, but we're a nation that drives cars. I mean, what's the real incentive, and is that what holds it up year after year after year?
Yeah, I think that the Crafts have been pretty upfront. They want it to be in a downtown urban place with public transportation. And I think the reason why is that just the atmosphere. I mean, I'm not sure. Have you guys traveled to any MLS games, to other stadiums?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been to LAFC's stadium. I've been to the Galaxy Stadium. I've been to Orlando Stadium. And what's kind of cool is that when you leave some of those places, Orlando, for example, you leave the stadium and everyone around the stadium is fully immersed in the sport. Everyone's wearing jerseys, even if they didn't go to the game. They're showing the game on TV. It's just such a big part of the culture. Mm-hmm. And it's just a walk, like being able to walk there and be a part of it. I mean, right now, if you're a diehard soccer fan, like if you love soccer, the question is, like, do you just want to hang out with your friends in Boston and do something there, go to a concert where it's all public transportation? Or do you want to drive an hour? You get tailgating, which I think is awesome, which is a big part of the culture. But you have to, like, watch the game and then get in your car and drive an hour home. And it's just sometimes a tough ask for people versus the idea of public transportation. And so I think that when you – go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, and Seth, you hit the nail on the head when you say culture. Because, there's nothing like the culture of Rentham and Foxborough for soccer.
Let me tell you this. I enjoy the tailgate. I see a parking lot with plenty of spaces and plenty of room for people to spread out. And I see soccer games in the parking lot. I see people tailgating. It's a nice atmosphere. If you walk around whatever the shopping mall is, the games are on TV. And I understand that you might not want to be in that stadium. You might want to build another stadium next to it. But it seems like...
Well, no, I think to his point, though, is if you build it in the city, it's population.
And I get population. I get the idea that younger people and all
the
that,
colleges
and population density. I just look at it and I think it's not bad, and the Crafts are making a lot of money, and everything is in place. Would they be better off just building on the property? On the property.
Seth, how about the what would you say would be capacity? What would you like to see as a capacity if they're going to build a new stadium? What do you think would be a good capacity? Or obviously you want it full, right? What do you think a capacity would be?
So just to go back to the other part about the stadium outside, I think that we've seen that some places in MLS have put their stadium outside the city. For example, Chicago with Bridgeview. Yep. And when things are good. But when the team isn't doing so well, there's no one's really making the drive. You see the same thing with the Colorado Rapids. So you want to try to make it as accessible as possible for people to keep that fan base, that culture. So, to go back to your intro question, that like it's passed on from generation to generation because that's what we did. We got up and went to the soccer games, and any barriers you put in place of that, I think, makes the fandom a little bit harder for people. That the fact that you have to drive an hour, 2 hours just makes it a little bit harder. And as a result, you have people that don't. You have people that always show up 100%, but I think your pool that you're going to pull from is going to be higher when you're in the city. In terms of like a soccer specific stadium, the number of people, I think like 25,000, 30,000 would be a nice number. If you really want to, start with 20, we saw some places start with like 20, and then when they build up their fan base, they were able to like expand in the off season and put in some more seats in there. But I think that like if you get like 25,000, and you build it correctly, which surely they will, the atmosphere is just going to be unlike any other. Again, talking about Taylor Twellman and other people as well, Lexi Lawless, they basically said if they do this right, then it's going to be one of the best atmospheres, one of the best teams in MLS. And that's pretty exciting to think about.
Plus, if you build them that size, you can hold concerts, off-season, year-round
Sure.
use.
All they need is a giant parcel of land in the city, or they can do it like Fenway where there's no real parking. It's $50 to park. It's, then we can get inside and they can sell lobster rolls for, how much are lobster rolls? Are they $28 now? Anyway, Seth, thanks very much. Anything anything you want to add before we let you go?
No, I appreciate the conversation. I think it's really important that people like us are important to the growth of soccer. I see growing up, I was the kid that watched MLS while everyone else was talking about the Premier League all the time. Because, MLS is not the best soccer in the world. I think everyone would admit that. But it's our product, right? So when, someone dribbles out of bounds or someone miskicks the ball, it's like, that's our product. And we need to be the ones that support it and be a part of it. So I think that, now I see more kids wear the jerseys, talk about it, go to games. And it's people like us that continue to grow the game that makes it really important. So keep up all you're doing, and I appreciate the chat.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Seth.
One of the negatives that he said is that the noise escapes Foxborough, but if you're yelling the stuff that I'm yelling, like you want that out of there. You don't want that to... I don't want to get in trouble. I say it and then it leaves.
He makes a great point. Like, we know how you hate the horns. You've said that all the time.
I don't like the fact that it just seems to not connect to what's going on in the field. I like things to connect.
Yeah, like there's an out-of-bounds player, somebody's hurt, and you still hear the drums and the horns no matter what's happening on the field.
I don't mind if somebody's...
So when you're at Fenway and people are eating hot dogs and on their phones, that connects to what the players are doing because they're doing nothing too. You're right. I see where you're going with it.
Here's the thing. Do you like the wave?
No, I don't bother. I don't join in.
Yeah, that's the thing. You got all these people who don't like the wave. When my daughter was little, we'd go to games. She likes the wave. I'm thinking, okay, fine. Some people like it. I don't, I'm not one of these people who says, oh, Sweet Caroline, blah, 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 blah. But it just doesn't it seems to be a disconnect. If you're not excited about the game and you're just excited about it to be in the party atmosphere.
This wouldn't surprise me. Are you saying that it started at baseball games, the wave? Is that the sport that it started at, or was it football?
No, I don't know where it started. I know that it was big in 70.
Seattle.
No.
The Seattle Seahawks in their Seattle Dome they had. Or that was at Minnesota. It was football.
It was football.
It was in a dome.
Huh.
And we're very disappointed. Paul and I looked at each other, Dave, when you were talking to Seth, and you talked about how you were a writer once, that you didn't say award-winning writer.
Paul, I also didn't ask him about comedians. We were supposed to start with a comedy talk.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. It's been a long day.
Take him by the hand.
Been a long day.
It's been a long.
So let's talk about our tabloid.
It's been a long day. Listen, I've been with you two. It's been a long day. Trust me.
Right.
Hey, by the way, we haven't even said hello to Dale, our engineer.
He knows we're here.
Hey! I appreciate
Hold
that.
On, Dale's been sleeping for 36 minutes.
I don't even think I put record on. Can we call this guy back or what?
I don't know how Dale sleeps at all, given the fact that everyone that's getting bombed in Ukraine, it's his fault.
Yeah. We've been blaming you, Dale, for weeks. And by the way, those of you listening to the podcast, if you had seen Dave's face when Seth was talking about on-field strategy with the diamond have you ever seen somebody have an ice cream headache before when they ate ice cream too fast? It's exactly what Dave looked like during that conversation.
Fine.
All right, I want to say a couple things before we sign off.
All right.
Number one, when we're wrong, we'll admit we're wrong on this show. When we're right, we're going to toot our horn. We said McNamara was an issue, wasn't going to play against Mexico. He didn't start.
Yep.
We said they needed to bring McNamara in near Polster, and in the very next game they got a shutout, and that's exactly where he was per the graph on MLS. And then I said that Real Madrid, team that Jim has going all the way, I compared him to the Bengals. As Burrow goes, they go. I said they need Benzema. He went out and scored 3 goals. They were down 2-0. They advanced.
He scored a hat
So we were right 3 times. So you want some soccer stuff to go on in this show? You listen to this show.
That's really good.
Gambling tips, anything. We're going to give it to you.
We've said this before, Dale. When we talk about how we're going to do the show, I always say you guys have got to do lots of. You guys got to add more soccer content because that's when these two talk, and I can just ignore them for a few minutes and ignore the show.
I'll tell you, he was great to have on. I don't know which one of you arranged it. Maybe it was Dale.
It was me. A good old friend.
Since you didn't fucking kill Putin, we get Seth. But anyway, but he was excellent. I think that's, he's one of us. Mm-hmm. Maybe 1/10 of you, Dave.
No,
but he's one of Paul and I.
He's not one of you.
He is a soccer head. I mean, this is what we talk about.
He's a young kid.
But he's a soccer head.
He's a young kid who knows horse guide. Who knows horse guide. He knows horse guy.
Horse guy, I'll give you one little hint. Horse guy is a good player.
He's it goes to my theory. I've said it before.
What?
I know who he is.
Horse guy.
I don't want to out him because
you do not.
I'll tell you
me.
why.
I'll
tell you why. I said to him, horse guy, I know who you are, but I'm not going to give it up. Don't worry, Alexi. Your secret is safe with me.
Okay. Horse guy's father, incidentally, played in the league with Balillo and myself and Brad Feldman, if you're out there listening, the announcer for the Revs.
Yep.
Brad, you want to come on sometime? Love to talk to you. But Brad played in the league too.
All right. Well, we have to ask.
So Horsehead's father was.
So Brad Feldman is Horsehead's father?
No. But can we get to the tablet story before we do
well, listen, go ahead, Paul. I'm still stuck on Nutsy the squirrel, but go ahead.
Austin, Texas.
Hold on. I got to say this. I can't believe there's only one other name that you would name a squirrel. Think about it. Nutsy would be one.
Well, Bushy
or Fluffy Tail or something.
Fluffy Tail. I agree.
Fluffy Tail? What about, there'd be rabbits very upset with you.
All right, then.
Well, what's
Bushy.
the other name? I can't
Rocky.
Wait. Oh, Rocky.
Rocky.
You are old. Go ahead, Paul.
All right, go ahead, Paul.
This story comes to us from Austin, Texas.
All right, so this is the soccer news of the world, brought to you by Paul Nardizzi, who searched the globe for the best.
It didn't take me long to find this one. So, parents are getting into it at a game, okay, and the mother comes over and gives her full rant at this group of people. As she walks away, this guy pulls his phone and he's filming her. So she turns around, sees the camera, decides to come back, and then moon all the parents. I'm sure there were kids in the vicinity as well. Shows her complete ass. I watched it 3 times, not for shock value, not because she belonged.
Don't show it to Dave, especially right now.
It was disgusting. I watched it 3 times.
But again, not because she belonged in a pair of juicy shorts. It was more for shock value. I couldn't believe that this woman did this.
It was the 3rd time I recognized that.
Yeah. and you're thinking, if you're that mad, what is it? Yeah, U14 state title? The kids were probably 5 years old, running around chasing the little ball in the corner, right? I don't know. They didn't
you don't know this? Oh,
you can't see the game.
Oh, that's hilarious. So she mooned everybody, and it's on film now.
I will say this, the hockey parents are out of control. I don't know if you've heard about, in Massachusetts, the big thing now is that they're having trouble finding officials because the parents are so abusive to the officials and they have to find people to skate. But yeah, they're so abusive. They're having trouble finding officials. They can't be any better. Well, I don't know. I mean, hockey may still be the leader. That may still put them in the lead. But soccer parents are close behind for crazy behavior.
This is very important for our listeners. Mm-hmm. You need to. How do they look it up? What can they look up to find that? Because people are thinking, I've got to see
YouTube Angry Soccer Mom.
Oh, that's great.
I think is the title.
Wow. And then you've just got to sift through about 1 million videos.
No, it was at the top. Obviously, this thing went viral.
That's a great one for the week. Thank you, Paul. We needed
good,
that.
Paul. Wow. How long did it take you to find it?
Not very long.
Well,
what's not very long?
3 minutes.
You looked up soccer mooning.
I was going to.
Is this going to be this week's job for Rick Spencer? Mooning people at youth soccer games?
Rick's not going to moon people.
Oh, your job, I meant.
Oh, my job?
My side job, mooning parents at U8 soccer games.
If it wasn't for Rick Spencer, you'd be mooning people at the side.
Here's the thing. I was wondering how much prep he does. 3 minutes. Okay, now I know.
On that story, yes. Yes.
All right, that's more than I do for the entire episode. All right, so that's it for this episode of Soccerheads New England. We'll be back next week. We'd like to thank financial advisor Rick Spencer. Call him at 978-857-7573, and soon you too will live like Jim Ruberti, able to employ a person full-time to dispense compliments. Oh, you're so funny, Mr. Ruberti. What a nice time, Mr. Ruberti. You move with the grace of a ballerina, Mr. Ruberti. Yes.
Money well spent.
I bet you can save penalty kicks, Mr. Ruberti.
Oh, boy.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roberto. And don't forget, for fundraising the Soccerheads Experience for your soccer team, league, club, or whatever, the Soccerheads Experience will make you a fundraiser. More than a show, we'll make it an experience. Send us an email and we'll start the process at soccerheadsnewengland@gmail.com. And you'll get to communicate with Jim Ruberti.
We'll be performing at Whole Foods at 4:30 this afternoon.
I just want to mention the base of my microphone. Someone picked their nose and put it on there. I did not do it. Okay, I'm well known when I pick my nose, I wipe it on plants. I did not put that there. Continue.
All right. Don't forget for fundraising. Yeah, we already did that one. For Paul Nardizzi and Jim Ruberti, I'm Dave Rattigan, and this has been Soccerheads New England. Thanks for tuning in. Please share. Thanks, everybody.